Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Catalyst Meditation pre-meditation talk. And um, as I've said to you before, I've this past couple of weeks has been amazingly um, fruitful when it comes to looking at what we are doing and how we're doing it. And I don't want to get too far into that because I won't have any time to um, go through the part of what we're going to go through today. So the thing that I've been working on, the thing that I've been pulling into focus is focus. What are the most important things that we are doing to bring about creating a world that works for all? What are the most important things that we need to understand? What are the things that we need to understand that may be important but may be secondary to these other things? Um, I've been breaking my categories down into the problem, the reasoning behind the problem, the foundation, or I think more correctly is like what is the world view that we are operating from? What is our vision? Um, what is the manifesto? What are we asking ourselves to do, and what are we asking all others to do? What is our practice? What is our project or projects that we see as exemplifying the work that we're doing? Where do we want to do these projects? So what are our targets? And then finally, what is the call to action? What is the thing that we are saying to people as our bottom line? The thing that is moving us to act. And then later on, there'll be the evaluation. I put that in here to let you know that, yeah, we need to think about how are we successful and how are we impacting. Um, so that's the whole shebang. What we're going to talk about today is just the first part of the first part. We're going to talk a bit about the problem. And as you know, I've said many times, I've said in my writings that we should not be dwelling on the problem. We see people um, over and over again talking about the problem um, to the point that they've got nothing else. You've heard me talk about this documentary on Noam Chomsky, and I generally don't do those kinds of uh, things, but I went to see it because I wanted to hear what his solution was for all the problems that we've got. And what the documentary was 2 solid hours of him talking about this is the problem, this is the problem, this is the problem. And then at the last 3 minutes, he says, in the face of all of this, we must be eternally vigilant. And as though vigilance is going to solve a problem, it doesn't. So he had no intention of solving any problems. He just wanted to keep talking about what the problem is. That is amazingly sexy. People get off talking about the problem. I was at dinner last night, what should be my last birthday dinner. My birthday was on the 24th of March, but I've been eating ever since, and so I might be able to wring a few more meals out of this birthday sequence here. Um, but I went to a nice restaurant and was listening to the conversation. I was in my conversation with my dinner partner, but I was listening to the conversation behind me, and all it was Trump did this, Trump did that. This is terrible. This is awful. Did you hear they're going to do this and they're going to do that? And these people think of themselves as being knowledgeable, and they think of themselves as being um, on top of things, etc. But they're not. They spend all of their time looking at the problem. They don't even believe that the problem has a solution. That is one of the biggest issues that we've got right now. So even when we are talking about the Commonway philosophy and the Commonway solution, people don't hear it. Or they hear it like, oh yeah, that's interesting, but did you hear what Trump did today? Um, and we do that because we don't know what the problem even is. We don't realize that the illusory splits between the right and the left, the illusory splits between the rich and the poor, the illusory splits of one race against another race, these are all strategies of control. And these strategies of control are wielded by all sides. This is not something that the right is doing. It's not something that the left is doing. It's not something that this group is doing or that group is doing. Everybody who's trying to get control over everybody else is utilizing these tactics. They split us apart in an attempt to win in a situation where there is no winning, there's only losing. So, so in a misguided attempt to win, everybody loses. So what we have to do is, um, well, let me go a little further on the issue of the problem and get that done with today, so that we can go on to something else tomorrow. Um, One of the problems that we have is a failure of thinking. It's as though all the people who thought about how society should work died 100 years ago. And we don't have anybody thinking, we don't see anybody thinking at a societal level. Um, and it seems as though people are not smart enough to come up with new ideas. So what they wind up doing is taking the old ideas off the shelf, put an adjective in the front of it, like neo, um, and then think, oh, I've got a new idea here. And you don't. You've got the old idea. Um, so we mask our inability to think by trying to resurrect these failed strategies. Some of these things failed 100 years ago. They failed 500 years ago. I saw someone talking about neo-anarchism. The anarchy movement came up and died 500 years ago. So now we have neo-anarchism, and that's going to go not very far at all. Um, and that keeps us from having to analyze that these are way old ideas in new wrappers, and we think we can do a better job of executing a bad idea because our times have changed. Um, I think another reason why we don't come up with new ideas is a combination of depression, being overwhelmed, being saturated with a media, and we have to recognize purposeful and skillful misdirection that keeps us unfocused or keeps us very highly focused in the wrong direction. Uh, so the wrong metaphors keep us focused on the wrong problems and the wrong solutions. And I will come out and say, when we talk about wrong metaphors, that includes the no kings uh, uh, operating umbrella. When people ask me if I was going to the no kings operating umbrella, the demonstrations, I said, what's wrong with kings? I said, if you lived in Canada, your supreme monarch would be King Charles. What's wrong with him? And if there's nothing wrong with him, then why is no kings your rallying cry? Well, of course, we know that they're making an attempt at um, positioning Donald Trump as a would-be king. And I think that's a really bad metaphor. He's a would-be something, but king isn't it. Um, and by going at someone with a, like going at this issue with a bad metaphor, it's like it doesn't do anything. It doesn't get you anywhere. I'll also go on record, and since it's going on it's being recorded, I'm pretty much sure it goes on record. Um, with all of the anti-teachings, the folks who are call themselves anti-racist, anti-sexist, anti-colonialist. When you tell yourself, when you're talking about what you're against, you are not talking about what you are for. I don't know what they want. They know I'm very clear. They don't want this society. I'm not clear at all what they do want. And we could wind up with a solution that is worse than the problem. And that has happened around the world. Um, uh, Another thing, so let's just take one of the Commonway um, uh, metaphors. Um, we're having a baby. We're in labor. It's painful and messy, but we will get through that, and we will get to a a new a whole new baby, a whole new society. Well, that I think that that's getting us on the right metaphor, um, because it shows that it you're paying attention to what is going on, and you're paying attention to the path that you can take to get to another um, another direction, another way. Um, okay, so let me now move into um, the thing that I see as the bottom line issue that we're facing, and that's the issue of consciousness. Um, I think that Albert Einstein laid out our issue for us um, many decades ago, um, saying that you can't solve a problem with the same consciousness that created it in the first place. We keep trying to change the problems that we've created without changing the consciousness of those problems. Um, so the thing that um, anti-racism, anti-sexism, anti-this, and anti-that, the thing that that does is not address the consciousness that creates the problem at all. We are going to do that. And one of the things that makes it very difficult to do that is we've got to face our own consciousness. We've got to think about the fact that all the problems that we're talking about, all the problems that we would like to see out of our own society, are problems that we have participated in some way. And the The successful movements that have happened on our planet are movements where the movement leaders, first of all, accept responsibility for participating in the creation of the problem. I'm thinking in particular about Václav Havel and the Velvet Revolution in Europe, in Czechoslovakia and in Europe, and the number of times he had to steer people away from name calling, blaming each other. When he said the line between the victim and the victimizer runs through each of our hearts. Part of our heart is being the victim of the society that we're living in. And the other part of our heart is being the villain in that society that we're living in. That in order for us to change, that change has to start right here. We've got to work on that problem that's right here in our own hearts. And once we get that, it is um, we don't kind of wallow in our, oh, I'm so bad, I'm this, I'm that, this is terrible. Um, you recognize that once you say that I'm going to correct me, it gives you the strength to take that to others and to be able to say, yeah, I work through this stuff in my own heart. Now let's all of us can start the process of doing the work. Um, and by doing that, we get to be um, we get to recognize how um, we get to recognize how um, deeply we are affected and affecting other people in how they perceive that reality. Um, and in terms of looking at our consciousness, we have had this belief, especially in this society, of that humans are separate, that we believed in this notion that we called rugged individualism, that I am separate from you, that my family is separate from your family, that my neighborhood is separate from your neighborhood, and that what we're trying to do is negotiate through all of these separations, as opposed to seeing the common threads that exist between us. Um, at no point in the last few thousand years has humanity acted like we're one species. Our societies spend the most of their time and the most of their money separating from each other, putting up fences, putting up barriers, putting up walls, dropping bombs, throwing spears at each other, etc. We don't act like we are one species living on one planet. We act like I can drill holes in my part of the boat and it doesn't affect you over in your part of the boat. I can set fire, or I can watch you set fire to your side of the boat and not think it's going to affect me in any way. And once we do, and when we do that, things can get really, really bad. Um, of course, once we see that as a problem, we are automatically seeing the solution. The solution being we are one. And that once we see that as a solution, we can start seeing all of the actions that we can take to reinforce our oneness. Once we see that, we can start seeing all of the things that we can do to heal the gulfs between us. AI predicts utopia in year 2104. AI is going to help us win here. Yay. Anyway, this AI prediction is not very it's very well um videoed. It's not very well in it doesn't it's not a realistic look at where we are going to be at any point in time in our future. Um, just like Star Trek did something. It just said we're going to skip all of our societal problems. Just skip them and just be able to just go around in our cool spaceships and visit strange people and do stuff like that. So this is something, this AI predicts utopia, just skips um, where we are. Okay, and see you. Um, I'm sorry, was that your hand up? Was that your hand up?
Yes, yes, this is hand waving
Okay,
or hand raising.
so I know that you are leaving early, so what's going on?
I just beg to differ. In the Star Trek universe, they did get to this utopia, but they in all the shows they refer back to Earth's world wars, including nuclear wars and horrible things they did to the population, sanctuary districts, and so on and so forth. So he did not skip over it, but the point was the utopian future, not the things that we had to go to get there.
Right. I apologize for saying whatever the hell I said that got that comment out because that's not what I meant. What I meant was they didn't tell us how to do it. It's like, yeah, we got all this turmoil here, and then boom, we got a cool spaceship over here. And the same thing is true with regard to this 2104 utopia prediction. I would like us to be able to know how to get to all that. She said, I can't help but notice you seem to be anti what people are doing. Um, it's not quite that bad. There are some things that I find um, non-objectionable. There's some things I find positive, and there's some things I've actually been for the past couple of years trying to push Commonway and, for example, the Holo movement together because we are saying the same things, we're doing the same things. Not exactly. I mean, we're doing analogous things. So one of them is the Holo movement. Um, I have some questions as to why they do what they do, how they do it, but it's just a question. It's not. I'm not saying that they're on the wrong track or anything like that. Someone else that I have, I've never met the real organizers of the Holo movement, but I know one of their uh, principal people has been a principal people here in Commonway. You may have met Susan Bellchamber. The other organization and person that I would I'm very positive on is Matthew Fox and his Order of the Sacred Earth. But yeah, the Order of the Sacred Earth is, I think, a really good attempt at saying let's have a good metaphor. And one of his metaphor is looking at the orders that the Catholic Church created over time in terms of sending out people to achieve particular goals. And I know he's talked about the Jesuits, the Justinians, the Benedictines, etc. And the folks of the Order of the Sacred Earth. Um, I'll talk more about them at another point. And Matt and I have talked about that. I've actually attended a couple of their meetings, and I'm looking for ways that we can support each other. So no, I'm not, it's not that I'm anti what people are doing. I'm anti the stuff that will not lead you to where you're saying you want to go. Um, if you get in your car and you say, I want to go to New York, and you find yourself in Sacramento, I'm going to be questioning what's the real goal here. Okay. Um, you find yourself in Bogota. I mean, it, I'm going to have a lot of questions for you. The what are we working for question that Esther has asked, I think that we'll be addressing that over time, over the next few weeks or so. And the last thing she says, I'm actually not going to touch. Okay. Said if it doesn't acknowledge God, it isn't accurate. On a couple of levels, that's true. On a couple of other levels, we are not going to allow our different conceptualizations of divine energy stop us from making forward action here. I know that the Buddhists, for example, think about the divine very differently than others do. Um, I think every other day I'm in the Buddhist camp, and the other day I'm in the God camp, and I think they're the same camp. I'm just kind of walking all over the place. Okay, this is a very quick wrap on our weekly Catalyst meditation. So let's go ahead and get wrapped up, and I'll say
I did have a comment, so
that's too bad. I'm closing up right now. Okay, for you, just for you.
well, when I was in labor and delivery, we had we have hospital slang, and L&D slang was, oh goody, a BMW coming in, which were the patients that were just locked into their misery and very pregnant, very uncomfortable. Get this kid out of me now. No easy way to do that, honey. So I kind of feel like that issue has kind of floated through my brain a lot more too. So I'm very glad to hear that we're gonna, move on through the discussing the problem phase, because I just feel like everywhere I go, it's like, oh, BMW stands for bitching, whining, and moaning, by the way. So,
Okay, I was
so.
going to say it's a car. So what do you think?
So I
Okay.
just feel like everywhere I go, there it is, again, oh joy,
Yeah,
to the point where I had to tell one of my light friends, can we not discuss politics while I'm just receiving light,
yeah, yeah,
please?
yeah,
It's like,
yeah,
can you just shut up, please?
yeah.
So, I'm kind of up to here with all of the BMWing that I
Mhm.
hear everywhere I go from 90% of the humans I know. And can we please move on through that, so, and I'm not saying, pointing any fingers here, and I'm not saying it's any worse here than anywhere else. It's just this ubiquitous whining thing that I find a complete waste of time and energy,
Yeah.
so
even when I move into the other phases, and I've been thinking about this in terms of, the vision phase and the projects phase, etc. How do you stay positive and stay focused and stay uh oh, this is to make sure those scumbags don't do such and such a thing. The order of the sacred earth, their only vow is that I promise to be the best lover and defender of the earth that I can be. Now, on the one hand, and now that's very positive, okay? And it says that it implies that you've got things to do, okay? But at the same time, you don't got to wallow in the problems. Um, so so keeping the energy up is, I think, a really important. Uh,
Crucially important. Yeah. Mhm.
and I personally think that creating a world that works for all is about as positive as you can get, and looking at how you actually do that, as opposed to um, using it as a slogan and throwing it off and then going back into, you know, isn't Trump a turkey? Uh,
Mhm. Mhm.
doesn't um, doesn't do you any good, and also doesn't do the our movement to a civilization, a new and accurate civilization, doesn't do any good for us either.